YouTube Ozick Owen, the Goat House is back with 15 realistic trades that could happen by the NFL trade deadline. Really excited to reveal these because it seems like every single year we accurately predict at least a couple of these. So we'll see how many we can get, if we get any. Was going to have the McCole Hardman of the Chiefs one in here, but that already happened. But I think anyone could have predicted that one. That was a cheap one, you know. So excited to reveal these. Excited about the deadline. We'll have grades after the deadline. We already got videos, more videos to come about the deadline. Recent one move every single NFL team should make. We have weekly coverage here at the Goat House. Join us, like, subscribe, turn notifications on. Follow us on Twitter. News, rumors, updates, predictions on there. Worth the follow. Links pinned in the comments for that. Our sponsors, GLD Shop, Liquid IV, code GOAT. On both those sites. We have a giveaway for the GLD shop. Links down below for that as well in the comments. This is the Buffalo Bills helmet chain from them. They have products like this. Check it all out. So we got 15 trades to go over. Realistic trades, not predicting every single one of these to happen. But first one, let's just start with Broncos players. We're going to start with a bunch of Broncos players, starting with Jeudy. Have him going to the Colts, which multiple teams could be in on Jeudy. We've heard other teams rumored. I thought about the Patriots. I think could be a good fit. They could be more sellers, I guess, because how their season is going, but I think Jeudy could be part of the rebuild. A receiver that they could be looking for could fit in with Mac Jones and that Bill O'Brien offense because the receiver's been a little messy. So I thought about the Patriots. The Panthers have been mentioned a bit. We'll talk about the Panthers in a little bit. Jeudy, it's still to be determined if he's better in the slot or outside. He's been playing, a lot of his productions come from the slot. Adam Thielen's been tearing up the slot for Carolina, but so we'll see. It's a possibility, but Colts make some sense. Again, a guy that can play in the slot and outside, and they can use one of those guys. You got strictly a slot guy in Josh Downs. You got strictly an ex-receiver in Michael Pittman. Alec Pierce kind of needs to prove a little bit more, obviously. Been a little underwhelming this year. Is Pittman going to be around forever? Got some questions like that. I'd imagine they try to bring him back. So that could make some sense. The Broncos originally wanted a round 2 pick, but now half the season's gone about, and they're struggling. Could have a fire sale. He hasn't really worked out tremendously. Not that he's been bad, but for them, I think a 3rd round pick makes sense. I would even hesitate to do that, because he hasn't proven much. If I'm the Colts, it's maybe an earlier to mid at the latest 3rd round pick. I would rather hang on, to be honest. I would rather hang on to the pick for that. But me predicting this is probably what it would look like. 4th round pick would make sense, or if you have a late 3rd round pick, a 4th round and something else could make sense. I think Sutton's the better of the two, but Jeudy is younger, has upside, cheaper contract as well. But yeah, a scenario that I thought of here, Jeudy to the Colts, Broncos get a 3rd round pick back and kind of start that rebuild. So we'll stay, and we're going to talk about more than Broncos players, don't worry. But first, we're going to stay on the Broncos. So there's the Panthers. I told you we'll talk about them. I think Sutton makes more sense for them than Jeudy. I guess the one reason Jeudy makes more sense is he's younger. The Panthers are kind of in a rebuild, but Sutton's still only 28. I think he's better right now than Jeudy. I don't mind his contract at all. I think the Panthers definitely could use an outside receiver that is pretty consistent catching the ball. Sutton's good after the catch as well. Adam Thielen's tearing it up from the slot. Jeudy, it's still like up in the air. Is he more of a slot or an outside? He can do both. That's great, but I think you need a true outside guy that can really help out Bryce Young. On the sideline, work the side in the red zone, like jump balls, like. Thielen's doing everything, but mainly from the slot. He's kind of carrying this group. So I thought Sutton made more sense. Jeudy will probably be worth more because he's younger, has upside. Sutton already has a contract, but I would prefer this route here. So a 4th in 2024, and that seems a little too cheap because he's a good receiver. He's the Broncos' best receiver right now. Do they want to get rid of him? So a 2025 6th. Tag that along with the 4th there. So I thought that made sense. 3rd round picks possible. Maybe a lone 4th is possible. I think that'd be a pretty good deal. But then again, he does come with somewhat of a big contract. But he's a good receiver. I think he's worth that. Sure, could prove a little bit more. But I think Panthers could very well end up with Jeudy. I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but I think Sutton makes a little bit more sense. The one thing that you could argue Jeudy over Sutton for them is he's younger. But I think play style, what they're looking for, maybe value, because the Panthers want to keep their very high picks. They give up a 3rd round pick for Jeudy. That's an early 3rd round. I wouldn't agree with it. I just would not agree with that at all. So this made sense for the Panthers. More Broncos guys. Juel, linebacker. of the Broncos, who's been pretty solid, in his career there. Playing a little bit less snaps. Maybe they're trying to get Drew Sanders involved, but he's still playing. He's still starting. Still playing majority of snaps. The Bills could use a linebacker to pair with Bernard, with Matt Milano out, but they don't really need a guy long term. That they're trying to win this year. The Bills, they're trying to contend for Super Bowls, and they won't have Milano for that Super Bowl run. So get a guy that can play here. I like the fit of Juel in there. So it could be a 5th round pick. Could it be a 6th? I think it's a possibility. 5th probably be the maximum. 5th or 6th to the Broncos. So the Broncos continue to gather draft picks. If they trade multiple guys, we'll see. But not too many, not a long list of teams need linebackers, but the Bills definitely could use one, or they can stick put. They got the rookie in there. Do they continue to go on with that? Do they look at a different position? I will actually circle back towards the end of this video and talk about the Bills, somebody else they could acquire. We're sticking with the Broncos here. We got a pattern in this trade scenarios video. But another Broncos player, Garrett Bowles, which he was rumored before the season to possibly be dealt, and he's been mentioned. He just wants to win. He hasn't been winning. He's fed up with it. So he could be on the move, but that does take away the Broncos starting left tackle. But if they give up on the year, it'd be a guy that can move here, and then they look to sign someone else maybe for the future, next year, in the offseason for the left tackle spot. But the Jets made sense. I guess it depends on if him and Nathaniel Hackett were good. I don't see any reason that says they're not, but because obviously Hackett was with the Broncos last year, so we know he fits his system. They can definitely use a tackle. It's been struggling. It's been beat up. Rodgers could be back earlier than expected, so you want to make sure the offensive line's a little bit better if he does come back, if they're in the playoffs, whatever it is. So would they prefer Bowles and Becton, but rather than Becton and Mitchell? I think there's a decent shot. And you're not stuck with Bowles long term in this. It's actually 2 L's in his last name. Graphics guy on thin ice once again with the misspelling of his last name. But I thought a 4th round pick made sense. It could be a 3rd. Could it be a 4th and something else? That's a possibility as well, somewhere around that range. But if there was a team that was going to trade for him, the Jets would make the most sense. Thought about the Giants, but would it be worth it? Right now, Andrew Thomas going to come back. Bowles, do you feel good about him at right tackle? Do you move Neal to guard? A lot of things need to happen. The Jets, by far, if Bowles is going to be traded, made some sense. It made the most sense, really, for him. And then we're done with the Broncos. Sticking with the Jets here, they could move on from Dalvin Cook. He's been pretty underwhelming for them. Breece Hall's been fantastic, and they have Michael Carter, who's now getting more snaps than Dalvin Cook the last few weeks, actually. So Cook is basically running back 3. Now, they could hang on to him. If Rodgers comes back later, maybe they want to have that other option in case Breece Hall comes back. It's a possibility, but they could definitely be looking to move him for cheap because he's been underwhelming. He's not, he probably wants to play. The Browns, actually, Kevin Stefanski, coach in Minnesota, so obviously going to fit the system, familiar with that system, familiar with Kevin Stefanski. They don't have Nick Chubb anymore, obviously out for the season. They got Kareem Hunt going a little bit last week. He didn't practice yet this week, though. He's beat up. Jerome Ford, solid. But go get another guy that fits the system that can help you for sure. I definitely can see Stefanski being interested. Compensation could be a 7th round pick. I thought about a swap of picks, like a 6th and a 7th swap in a certain, doesn't have to be this year, any year. That might be tough for it to work, I guess, because the lack of late picks these teams have, or one team has. So 2024 7th, or maybe could even be a further down the road 7th. But I do love the fit with Cleveland. They could be sniffing around maybe for some running backs, or maybe they stay put because they got a couple decent ones in there, but they're planning on making a push, playoffs and further. So get another back in there could make, because you won't have Nick Chubb, so could make some sense. So the Jets kind of recoup a pick there if they trade for a guy like Garrett Bowles, or maybe one or the other happen. Maybe neither happen. But another Jets guy that could be dealt, Carl Lawson. Some of the younger guys starting to take his reps away. Jermaine Johnson's been looking fantastic. So Lawson's been getting either limited to no snaps last week. Limited what it was. But the Raiders made sense. I thought about the Falcons here as well. You could say Jaguars, you could throw in other, Ravens, you could throw in teams like that. But the Raiders and the Falcons are really the teams that I was thinking about for Carl Lawson here. I went with the Raiders. Could use another guy out there. Obviously, they plan on having Chandler Jones out there this year, but that stuff happened. Tyree Wilson's been extremely underwhelming. Kuntz has been okay. You just would like another piece in there, maybe Kuntz to be the key rotation guy. So 6th-round pick. Low cost for a pretty decent player, but he's been a little underwhelming. Hasn't been playing a lot, so 6 made sense to me. So the Jets get some picks there for some guys, and the Jets can do nothing. They can be on both sides. They can be buyers and sellers. I can see both, but the Raiders, I think the Raiders could be the same thing. The Raiders could be they can acquire a guy in a trade and they can sell a guy in a trade. I have that in this video. Definitely could see them being one of those types of teams here at by the deadline. So them getting Lawson for a 6th-round pick made a lot of sense to me. Sticking with the Raiders, so could they be buyers and sellers? Yeah, the Eagles made sense for Renfro. Quez Watkins, get injured. Obviously, they bring in Julio Jones. How much Julio have left in the tank? He's always been an outside receiver, though. Just kind of feels like a body right now, like a depth guy. Maybe a good guy to have, even if he's not playing that much. But they could use a guy that can handle the slot. They definitely can use a slot receiver. I thought about a guy like Darnell Mooney, too. Maybe it'll be a little bit more expensive than Renfro. But yeah, Renfro should be on the cheaper side. I think a good fit. I think he would thrive in Philadelphia. And again, they could use a slot receiver, a guy that doesn't need to play every single down, but come in and play in the slot when you need him to. The compensation was a little tricky because I think Renfro is worth more than 7th-round picks. We have multiple 7th-round picks here. It is a little tricky though because they're playing him less and less. The Raiders seem to just get rid of guys. Like they trade him for less than their value. But the Eagles are a little short on the picks where I think this year and next year where I think his value actually is at. So you pair, and they have multiple 7th-round picks in 2025. So I paired 2 7th-round picks, 2025, 2026. It could end up being a little bit more in this. It could be a swap, but that's what made sense based on what picks the Eagles have. And the Raiders could be willing to accept it there. So we'll see. The Eagles could be in the market for, we're not done talking about them, but they can be in the market for a slot receiver even though they signed Julio Jones. I don't think it cancels it out really at all, in my opinion. But we'll see. They could be active. Both these teams could be very active. A reunion here, a potential reunion. Like this one a lot. The Eagles could bring back Jalen Mills, who's on the Patriots, a versatile DB. We've seen him line up throughout his career at safety, at corner, at slot corner. That could very much help the Eagles. Familiar face. Obviously, it's been a little bit of time since he's there. Not too long, but people keep. And they could. I'm not ruling it out. They could add a big-time corner. I keep seeing Jaylen Johnson. We'll actually talk about Jaylen Johnson in this video. But the Eagles' reality is they want James Bradbury and Darius Slay and James Bradbury, want to list them in that order, to be their starting outside corners because they get paid a lot. They're very good. They had some injuries pop up. But long-term, speaking this year long-term, they plan on those guys being out there. So do they want to bring in another starting-worthy guy on the outside, pay him, trade value for it, and have him in the bench, in the playoffs if those two guys are healthy? I don't know if they really want to do that. So that's my thinking with the guy like Jaylen Johnson. So you bring in Jalen Mills, who could fill in an outside corner. He can start at slot corner. He can start at safety. Reed Blankenship's actually been an underrated player, pretty good for them at free safety. He's been, injured. They plan on him being out there long term. So you get a piece here that can start in multiple different spots if you need him to. So he gets put to use. But you don't put a lot of value, a lot of stock into this where it would be like a starting corner. I just don't know if the Eagles want to do that, just in my opinion. So Mills made a lot of sense here, and the Patriots could be sellers. He's playing less snaps right now. He could be more value, a little bit more value. Maybe the Patriots would view a 6th and a 7th round swap more valuable. The Eagles got multiple picks in the 7th round in 2025 right now. So thought that made sense. Again, there could be a little bit more, but player that is past his prime, it feels like his prime was sometime with Philadelphia, and the Patriots could be sellers, and he's not playing as much right now. So I thought the 2025 7th made sense. But I like this fit a lot, not just because he played for the Eagles, but it's exactly what they're looking for right now. So I love that one. Next, sticking on the Eagles, they're trading some picks away for guys, but now they can recoup some picks. So, and they can definitely use a 6th-round pick this year. So, Derek Barnett goes out, 6th comes in. It could be a 6th and something else. Could it be a 5th? I think that'd be a really good deal for the Eagles. He's been playing a little bit. But over the last few years, we haven't seen like the Derek Barnett that we thought maybe we'd get. But the Eagles got plenty of depth, maybe more Nolan Smith if this happens, because they both are getting a little bit of snaps, so it could increase his and Smith's as a rotation player, I suppose. But the Jags could very well. I've been seeing Danielle Hunter linked to them a bit, big time pass rusher. Brian Burns, could they do that? They could. My thinking is more of a rotational guy. They want Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker to be their starting edge rushers. And then we'll see if they extend Josh Allen or not. But, so they're kind of looking for like an Arden Key, a guy that could, he's capable of starting, but mainly a rotation guy. Then sometimes they want to have 3 pass rushers out there at once, get a little creative. So I think get going and getting like a big-time rotational pass rusher here, which Barnett makes some sense. I've talked about this before. Doug Peterson, even though he's not a defensive guy, is familiar with Barnett, obviously being in Philly. So Barnett to the Jags. Eagles get a pick back here because I think they could be buyers and sellers. Another team to really watch for because they could be pretty active buying or selling or both. So again, another one that made some sense. I had this one actually before the year. Like I was kind of waiting on Barnett to go to the Jags. We'll see if it happens. This actually might be my favorite one on the whole video. It's like such a small one, but I really, really could see this happening. So another Eagles one here. They could sell Rashad Penny because he's just not playing for them. A little bit of a running style, like scheme difference going from Seattle to Philly. That could be why they're just more comfortable and maybe they're better too with DeAndre Swift and Kenneth Gainwell. But in their system, in their running scheme, it makes more sense. The Rams are extremely beat up at running back right now. They got rid of Akers as well just because something wasn't working out there wasn't the talent or anything like that. But they're very beat up at the position. They did bring in some guys in. They'll have Freeman in there. They brought Darrell Henderson back, but Penny could be really good in that McVay Rams, West Coast, outside zone style running. Like it's just if he stays healthy, he can run in that system like he did in Seattle, and it could be a very, very low cost because the Eagles could be buyers and sellers, could be shipping guys off. He's not playing for the Eagles right now. I guess it's just not working out. Again, fits much better in like the Seattle running scheme, the LA running scheme, much better. So that it makes sense. So I love this for both teams. The Eagles grab a 6th-round pick that they could be trading away 7th-round picks. They have 3, I think, in 2025. So just a swap of picks. We've seen that quite a bit. So 2025 swap of picks. The Rams get Rashad Penny. He could go to a team like the Lions. He could go to a team like the Browns. The Rams made the most sense there. That one I like a lot just because it's like the fit makes sense. The trade I could see it happening for sure. So definitely one to watch for there, even though it's a smaller one. But I could see Penny, behind Kyron Williams. Once Kyron's back, he's injured right now, but lighten it up as a rotational back there. Speaking of the Rams, they could acquire a big-time player like Brian Burns, which the Panthers did not want to trade him in the past. Maybe now they realize how many holes the roster has. They want to rebuild this thing. They want more draft picks. Remember, their 1st-round pick right now is sitting at that 1 spot, and they don't even have it. The Chicago Bears have it, so that's tough. They want a 1st-round pick because they need it bad. So ship off Burns to the Rams, who we know could be interested. They're looking for that next big pass rusher for them, and he could even play just outside of Aaron Donald alongside with them for a bit here. I think both teams could be interested. With the Panthers, right now, maybe it doesn't look like it's great that they shipped off DJ Moore. Like they got rid of one of their best players. He's tearing it up for Chicago. They need a number 1 receiver. So do they want to ship off another big-time player of theirs? Maybe not, but maybe they'll be willing to get that 1st-round pick and some. This is like bottom line too. Like this was my prediction, round 1 in 2024 and round 3 in 2024. But I thought about like a 2025 4th or 5th or 6th, something like that is possible as well. Or is it a 1 from this year and a 5th from this year and then a 3rd from next year? Something like that's possible, but makes sense for both sides. Panthers haven't agreed with an extension with Burns yet. Could that mean they could be dealing? Do they want to deal a big-time player again? We will see. But I want to throw some of these blockbuster ones in there for you guys that are realistic. I don't want to put them in here if I don't think they're realistic. I think it's realistic. Not that I'm counting on it for sure, but a couple other big names coming up too. But this one, maybe not the biggest name, but he's seeking Terrace Marshall seeking a trade right now. He got 0 snaps last week, which he was a little productive the other weeks, and he tore it up at LSU. It's a guy that can play outside and in the slot. Chargers made some sense. I would love for the Chargers to go all out. Like, I love the fit of Hollywood Brown there. I don't think I'm thinking more and more the Cardinals don't deal him, but I don't know. The Chargers don't really make those splash moves. Like every year, I thought they were going to trade for Brandon Cooks, like perfect fit. They don't do that. So, but they could use another body really as a rotation guy at the receiver position. Mike Williams is out. They have Keenan Allen and Josh Palmer out there. Keenan Allen mainly playing from the slot. Josh Palmer more outside, but can do both. They're missing, Mike Williams, Quentin Johnson, and Darius Davis. They can't really get, they're not really doing much, unfortunately. So get another body in there that has some experience in the NFL. He has some, he's been a little underwhelming compared to the prospect evaluation, what people thought he would be, but he's a little productive at least. So, and seeking a trade. So I think a swap of picks makes some sense. I think he could be good with Justin Herbert too. He hasn't had the best quarterbacks in Carolina. So the Panthers get a 6th round this year. The Chargers get a 7th round next year. So it's a swap, but a little bit more valuable swap compared to the other ones we've been seeing for the team that's giving, in this case, the Panthers giving up the players. So thought that one made some sense as well. Another one here, talking about some Bears players. Dante Foreman, who, when the Bears signed him, it felt like we're going to stash this guy for the trade deadline. It actually felt like that. And then they had him as a healthy scratch the first few weeks because he's their best running back. Right today, right now, if all their backs are healthy. Maybe some people disagree. It's firm for me. Foreman's their best back, but they had him stashed quite clear for the deadline, but they had no choice but to play him now because guys got hurt. So they could hang on to him because guys are hurt, but I'd imagine Roschon Johnson back. Travis Homer coming back this week. Johnson probably next week. So they can. I think that was the plan. So I actually have a little bit of a in-division trade here, which aren't super common, but I think we could see it in something like this. The Lions have Montgomery, former Bears running back, and Jahmyr Gibbs. They've been fantastic when they're in there, but Montgomery now hurt. He can miss some time. Gibbs just coming back. Maybe they're not worried about Gibbs long term, but maybe they also don't want him to take the full load, like carry after carry at the same time. So they need somebody like a physical back that is a poor man's Montgomery. I think this is a very good poor man's Montgomery. Foreman was really good with the Panthers. He was really good on the Titans. He's a solid back. He ran really well against the Vikings last week. So this makes sense. And Montgomery's had injuries pop up. We saw Gibbs have injury pop up this year. They want to have a guy that isn't, if they're all healthy, he actually, to me, I wouldn't really view him as third string. I would view him as Montgomery's backup. Like Gibbs is his own guy, and you got Montgomery and Foreman over here. That's how I view it. The Lions are definitely trying to make a run. They want to make sure they stay healthy at that position. So having another physical back, because they had Jamal Williams last year, so valuable. And they have Montgomery this year, super valuable, getting injured. So this made a lot of sense. I thought more so than a Rashad Penny, a Dalvin Cook. Foreman makes sense for the Lions. Good fit. I can actually see an in-division trade with this. It could be a swap of late-round picks. The Bears possibly could get a 6th. That'd probably be the maximum, but a swap of picks is possible. 2025 7th, just based on what the Lions have now in the future, I thought made some sense there. So Foreman for a 2025 7th. It felt like that's what the Bears' plan was when they signed Foreman and when they had him as a healthy scratch earlier in the year. Staying on the Bears, Jaylen Johnson's a guy that's been talked about. He could be dealt. And then this is the last of the Bears in this video. We'll talk about more Bears and others in other videos that we got coming up. But Mooney's being mentioned, some other guys being mentioned there, obviously. But I think these are the more realistic ones. But Jaylen Johnson of the Bills. Everyone talking about the Eagles for Jaylen Johnson. I kind of mentioned it when we talk about Jalen Mills. But yeah, I don't know if the Eagles are looking for a full-time starting outside corner. They might be looking for a rotational guy, like a key depth guy, or a guy that can start in slot, or a guy that can fill in safe. That's why Mills made a lot of sense. The Bills want a starter in for this year. They kind of want a rental, and if he works out tremendously for them, they would be open to extending him. That just makes a lot of sense to me because you got a legit starter here. This isn't the best in the world, but he's a decent starter. And I think scheme fit as well. The Bills mixing up the zone coverage a little bit more this year. They're even mixing a little bit of man, compared to the past where they're just running cover 2 and over again. But Johnson could fit it. I think he's pretty coverage versatile, if you know what I mean here. So that's why I think he could fit. But the Bears could be, they didn't agree to extension. They're kind of in rebuild still. They have young guys that, rookies that are playing as well. So it can make sense for both sides. The Bills get their starter for now because they're thin at the position and they just want to get better at the position with Tre'Davious White out. Johnson and Benford, the starters, would be in that scenario. I think the Bears could get a third-round pick. I think it's possible. I don't know if the Bills would do it for a third because it's kind of a rental, but it's very, very possible. Very possible. Fourth, and I think a lone fourth is also very possible as well. But a fourth and a sixth, kind of in the middle of those two things right there, either a lone third, lone fourth. I wouldn't rule out a lone fifth or like a fifth and a sixth. I think it'd be a really good deal for the Bills. But the Bears would probably rather keep him for that in that case because they would get a compensatory pick. They'd rather get the compensatory pick. So, which I would project probably be a 4. So they get a 4, and that would be 2025. So they get a 4 in 2024 for trading them now, and then a 6 in 2025. Thought that made sense for both sides there. So the Bills could be in the market for a linebacker, corner. And some people you could bring them up with maybe interior defensive line or receiver, but I think more likely. Watch out for the corner. Watch out for Jaylen Johnson here. Dante Jackson, another name that could start, but he's got another year on his contract. I don't know if the Bills want to be tied to that. Yeah, I mean, they could just cut him as well. So it could be a very, very similar scenario for Dante Jackson. I think Jaylen Johnson is a little more valuable, so we'd probably drop that. You know, 5th round pick for Jackson, so it's a possibility as well. And then one more, kind of a blockbuster one for you, and we do love the fit. We've talked about it before. Daniel Hunter also being brought up for the Jags. He's bringing the Falcons. I love the fit with the Falcons. Probably my favorite fit, like team scheme, scheme fit. Daniel Hunter Falcons. I don't know if the Falcons can afford to do that, because are they going to win a Super Bowl right now? You'd rather have the picks. You're still searching for their quarterback. Would they do this splash move? Maybe. The Jags maybe looking for more of a high-end rotational guy because they have, if you bring in Hunter, what are you going to do with Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker? You're going to start Josh Allen. So Walker probably hits the bench then. I guess at the end of the world, you get better. The Ravens make sense. They got good pressure last week. They played against a weaker offensive line, but Clowney played very well. But Clowney, they can almost line up as like a 3-4 end as well. Hunter, we've seen him play in both schemes throughout his career. And what does he do throughout his career? He gets after the quarterback. He gets sacks. And the Ravens are kind of famous for not only making big splash deals around this time of the year, but getting guys on expiring deals. And if they're outstanding for them, they extend them. If they're not, hey, we'll get a compensatory pick. The compensatory pick they would get if they traded for Hunter and let him go would very, very, very likely be, it would be 2025, but it would very, very, very likely be a 3rd round pick in 2025. So the Vikings would need something good for him, obviously. And I was thinking like a 2nd round pick and a 4th maybe was his value, a 2nd, a 4th, 2nd, 5th bottom line. But he's been playing so well. He's actually leading the NFL in 2 categories, sacks and tackles for loss. So the Vikings may say, Davenport's injured right now. He's only on a 1-year deal. Who do we got for pass rusher in the future? We'd probably rather extend Daniel Hunter unless we're blown away. So that could be that's why the trade. Before I thought the Hunter trade was, again, more value than it is now and then more likely to happen than it is now. It's probably calming down a little bit because the Vikings may go, we'd rather just keep him, try to extend him because he's that valuable to us. He's that good. It may take a 1st round pick. He is on an expiring deal, so maybe not because of that, but it may take, if it's the Ravens, probably a later 1st round pick. It very well could be that. It has to be close if not, so I came up with a 2nd in 2024 and a 3rd in 2025 because, again, if the Ravens got him, they can have him for long-term, good player, or they can let him go for compensatory pick. They would recoup that 2025 3rd round pick. So the Vikings would need much more than that because you got a good player that they maybe want to extend. So they may even decline this. They may even decline the 1st round pick. That's very possible to decline those things. So a lot of people are talking like we're going to get Hunter for this and that, and like the Vikings aren't going to give him away. But he does have an expiring deal. But I think they want, most likely they want to extend him. Because he's not going, hey, I'm demanding a trade right now, nothing like that. But those are 15 trade scenarios that I think are very realistic. Try to throw some blockbuster ones in here as well that are realistic. And we'll probably, still a little bit of time to trade deadline. We'll have more videos. We have a recent one that covers every single NFL team. Check that out. We'll have more with, guys that could be dealt, guys that are likely to be dealt, where they could go, what's their value. We always do this, and then live news on that on Twitter, and then grades if there's a decent amount of trades, right after the trade deadline, maybe the day of as well here on the channel. So we got you guys covered with full NFL coverage content every single week, even in the off season. So join us. You will not be disappointed with the content. Hopefully not the comments either. But check us out on Twitter. Like I said, I already said that. I think we're just going to wrap it up. We're going to have to wrap this one up. That's going to do it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.